You know, there's quite no other pain on this planet like Windows giving you a blue screen of death just when you have the equivalent of 2 hours of unsaved work. Oh, and this happened to me right now, and I'm so flabbergastedly annoyed that I figured I might as well make a clip about why Windows 11 sucks and why we should all have bigger expectations for the operating system that we use in 2024. Using Windows by this point reminds me of Sisyphus, the guy in Greek mythology. I think it was Greek mythology. The guy in Greek mythology that had to push a boulder up a hill forever and for all eternity. That is how I feel using Windows is like some of the time. Because don't get me wrong, I'm very forgiving with Windows, and I think most people are. Even though I used Linux for many years in the past. I'm not a noob in that area either. But I was never particularly bothered by some sore spots of Windows that a lot of people complain about. For example, I never cared about the fact that Windows collects a whole lot of telemetry. Hell, I worked in a lot of IT companies in the past. Almost all software collects telemetry these days. You cannot escape it. This is the gripe of the modern world. Everything harvests data, and data is as valuable as profit these days. So I never actually minded the fact that Windows knew how much I interacted with a certain part of the start menu. To hell with that. Good for them, I hope they make a better product. But here's the thing, they never do. Windows has always been, and will most probably always be, just the equivalent of a car that's been repainted over 1,000 times, and you have multiple levels of differently colored paint over the same sad bit of rust. This is what Windows is. If I really want to, I can find elements of Windows XP in it, Windows 95, hell, even Windows 3.1. which is decades in the past, and that legacy code still exists. It's one big freaking lasagna of code where people just write new stuff over the old stuff. There's no refactoring, or even if there is refactoring, it's like this big. There's no taking care of the code base. It's just stacking stuff on top because I think someone at Microsoft, and to be fair, they are right, but someone at Microsoft realized that, hey, PCs are only getting faster and RAM is only getting more abundant, so we really don't have any incentive to optimize. And I hate that they were right. Right now, my Windows 11 build, it's like 12 gigs of RAM just sitting there. And yeah, I know it caches app in the background, I don't care, all operating systems do. And you can't tell me there isn't bloat. In order to boot up File Explorer, you have a crap ton of things on top of it. Right now, it's just patchy code, patchy, slow, annoying code that should scratch us right in our nerdism, right in the part of us that makes us like technology. It's an insult. It's an insult to consider that the Windows 11 taskbar can't be put on the side. For hell... I love YouTube's restrictions. For Fudge's stake. For Fudge stake. It's like Microsoft, in their desperation to meet some sort of wacky, unrealistic timeline, decided to alienate all the power users that they had. And I can move past the fact that they dumbed down the UI. It's the most widely used operating system. Old ladies use it. It needs to be, for lack of a better term, idiot-proof. So I'm not mad at them for that, but give the options for the rest of the people. And yeah, I know there are alternatives to bring back the old taskbar, but I don't want to use third-party tools that have to run in the background like 7+ taskbar tweaker just to reactivate old legacy code that will not be maintained anymore and will not receive new features. They need to do code cleanup. They need to clean their freaking room, and this might be a tough job. I know they have to preserve compatibility, I know it's a nightmare, and it will give developers working at Microsoft PTSD to try to refactor the old Win32 code. But this is necessary, for God's sake. Otherwise, Windows will fade into obscurity. You simply can't stitch together different parts and start over with different lakes of code and just plop them together like you're making a pancake tower. You can't do this. I mean, technically you can do this. God, I've seen some horrendous code bases in my life. But you shouldn't do this when your product is used all over the entire world and you basically have full-on monopolistic control over the market. But the most unforgivable gripe is the application distribution system. We're still using .exe files in 2024. Jesus Christ, this should have died with Vista. You have package managers in Linux distributions, you have package managers in macOS, and yeah, we have the Microsoft Store now and we have Winget, but it's so freaking late right now. They are so late to the party that most of the apps that I use are still not in the store, they are still not incorporated in Winget, and they will never be for a good number of years because they were so freaking late with this, and that's the end of the story. If they had done this along with the other guys, it would have been better. And I came to the realization that I'm not the target audience. I'm on a freaking life raft floating in a sea of uncertainty where I don't feel like I belong on the software stack that I'm using right now. And it's a very personalized gripe. It's a very personalized frustration. I don't know if most of you fine people have it, but at the end of the day, whoever uses Windows has to have felt this frustration. Maybe Windows rebooted in the middle of the night when you left your PC on and you had unsaved stuff. Maybe Windows freaked out from a freaking driver that does the most insignificant job possible, and yet it totally collapsed the session and it had to restart and you lost everything. Maybe you realized that all your RAM was eaten up by nothing because some silly little program decided to have a memory leak. All of these, in my opinion, they shouldn't exist if just a bit of code maintenance were there. But if you don't want to refactor, at least containerize things. Look at Wine, how they use Wine prefixes. Use something similar. Containerize each and every app just like Android does it, or just like Wine/Proton does it. This will at the very least give you the space to optimize and to move forward and to actually modernize the code base by neatly packaging the old code that's dependent for backwards compatibility in a freaking container. When you need to run an old app that requires that, only run that code then. Innovate in the rest of the operating system. You don't need to plop everything together like some sort of mixed up spaghetti. Hey. So yeah, I lost 2 hours of work, and quite frankly, it felt good to do this clip right now. This very ranty, non-script, poorly thought out clip. If you're still here, you are amazing for watching my frustrations right now, and again, I freaking love you. Tell me what you think. Do you share the same feelings, or do you like Windows? Do you feel like you would ideally use another operating system? Are you happy in the Microsoft walled garden? And if not, tell me why. I'm quite curious. The only redeeming factor about Windows 11 and all prior Windows versions that led to this is that we have backwards compatibility that's actually pretty solid. With an asterisk, some would say Wine actually is able to run more old software than Windows, but I digress. I'm really curious what you find people think about this. Are you happy with Windows or are you not? Did you jump ship to Linux or to macOS? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next clip. Bye-bye.